Welcome to the 161st episode of AI Pod. Today's episode is brought to you by AI Pod, which is a community of nearly 1,100 AI enthusiasts, and by Axel, which is one of a kind center of excellence in AI run by IIT Alumni Center Bangalore with the support of Government of Karnataka. With that, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Ganesh Gopalan, co-founder, and CEO of Gnani.ai. We haven't actually met, but I think we have spoken a couple of times to each other. So, Ganesh, thank you so much for making the time and joining us.
Sure, I think 161 is a big number, so feel really privileged to be here. Thanks for inviting me and looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, so folks, here's what we'll do. Ganesh and I will chat for around 30, 35 minutes. And then after that, we'll open this out to questions from the audience. Just one request, please post your questions only in the Q&A box. Remember, there's a Q&A box and a chat box. Please post your questions only in the Q&A box. We'll take a look at it and I'll ask Ganesh your questions. So with that, let's get started. Ganesh, let's start right at the beginning. I know you founded Gnani some time ago, 7, 8 years ago. Would love to know from you when you started, with what vision you started, how have you progressed, and how have things changed, and what do you do today?
Yeah, I mean, so we started this company along with Anant Nagraj before this whole AI thing became fashionable, if I can put it that way. I think even deep tech is currently becoming fashionable, so that's saying a big thing, right?
Yeah.
So just to give a perspective, Anant and I were working at Texas Instruments, right, for a long time, and we used to work on stuff like 4G base stations and the works, right? So we had nothing to do with AI when we started, except for the fact that one fine day, half of Anand's team got poached by Alexa, including the guy
Oh,
at the top. So we
wow.
realized that maybe there is something in what we are doing is really hot. So we are not that kind of a old conservative company that people think we are. And we're enjoying this plush corporate job where everybody likes us. So we said, look, I think it's time to set up a deep tech company out of India. The other reason was simple. With TI, we could see like IPs that were developed like 35 years back, right? Still
Mm,
making money, right?
mm,
So you could
mm,
see the power of IP. So from day one, it was clear that we want to do a product company out of India. We want to do deep tech company out of India, right? And always try to solve some of the problems at the deeper level, right?
mm,
So I think
mm.
this is how we started the company. I think like I said before, all this AI stuff was fashionable, and any VC or any person that we talked to, we told that we are going to write, we're going to create India's first speech engine, which we did, by the way. So we did
Mm.
first India's first speech engines for many languages because we learned from the guys. We went and talked to folks at Alexa, and they said, a lot of the stuff in the US is, they claimed it's already done. This was 7, 8 years back. So we said, okay, let's do it for India. And we did India's first speech engines, right? Uh, Around a couple of years later, Samsung, looked at us and they actually said your patents are better than what we've seen for even large companies. And then they took a minority investment. Today, what we do is we are an
But did you
agentic AI.
have sorry to interrupt, Ganesh, did you have a market at that time? Which year are we talking about?
So this is around 2019. We were like dumb fools, if I can put it. Started the company the wrong way by just focusing on tech and not on business. Didn't look at use case. We just said we want to. So we in our office we had a board. Google was a poster boy at that time of tech excellence. We had a board on an office that said better than Google, right? And we were only trying to do algorithm after algorithm without a thought for any, I would say, commercial sense. And around, like I said, Samsung, invested in us with a thought to use us for Bixby, right?
Mm, mm,
But the Bixby focus for Samsung, never really happened, right? So they
mm,
they wanted to use us for about 10 million devices.
mm,
That's with that we got into that investment.
mm.
But subsequent to that, we've been focused a lot on, I would say today we are like a agentic AI company. We have our own product called Inya.ai. And we are solving problems for enterprises. We have about 200 customers worldwide. Solving the real problems in AI, if I can put it that way.
So out of the 200, how many are in India, Ganesh?
So a significant amount are in India. So that's the other barrier that we broke, and we still try to break when people tell us that you can't make money in India. So we say that you can make money in any part of the world. If you can make money here, that shows that you can make money elsewhere as well, right? So we got significant customers in India, US, Philippines, and few in other parts of the world. But fundamentally, a lot of our customers are in India and the
Yeah.
US, right?
So you mentioned agentic AI. Can you define that for our audience, just so
So
that we are clear?
I think yeah. Let me try to take a shot at it. Put it this way. So I'll try to relate to something I did yesterday, right? Yesterday we had the sofa coming to my house, right? I'm absolutely horrible at home decor, right? So I had my wife was in there. I had to place the sofa in the right place in the room, right? The sofa was heavy, uh, but I don't know where to place it. So let's suppose you had an AI agent, right? Ideally, right? One of the first things that the AI agent would do is do the heavy lifting. I can't lift the sofa. So, firstly, so today in the same context, like, we all get muddled by all this talk of LLMs,
Mm,
SLMs, all those fancy terms, multi-agent, right?
mm,
So, if you're a company that's trying to, build your AI application and solve a problem, we get very confused. So the heavy lifting in this case is done. Assume that I had an AI agent which took care of the lifting of the sofa, which I could never do without breaking my back. And it does the heavy lifting. So in a parallel use case, like I said, knows all about LLMs and SLMs and does all that stuff. The second thing that I'm talking about AI agentic platform here, right? Then I'll
mm,
go to AI agent.
mm,
So, so what it will do is also do some sort of a reasoning, right?
mm.
So it will decide, like, this AI agent will, decide where in the house or the room to put it. So it's some understanding of context. Now, this is another important word in the AI agentic terminology. So it understands me, it understands my wife, and, where in the room I could possibly put it, right? So I mentioned reasoning, and it takes care of integrations, right? It doesn't put it like adjoining the door, so I can't open my door.
Mm.
So in short, look at it this way: it takes the
Or it may
complexity.
move, or it may move a few other furniture items to place this.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So essentially, it takes the heavy lifting out of developing AI products for your enterprise, right? It takes care of integrations. AI agentic platforms take care of stuff like some sort of reasoning. Sometimes that's needed. Take the like an abstraction layer over your complex AI systems. So today, when you use our platform that is called Inya.ai, what you can really do is with Inya.ai do something around creating any sort of agent, right? It could be a CX agent, and now in our development we also having people create underwriting agents for banks. We have some customers trying to create claims reconciliation agents for insurance companies. So there
Mm.
is a lot of work that's happening. Essentially, we provide the platform where companies can take and build. We can do that for them, but they can do it themselves or their partners can. So the other reason
Oh,
why this is
interesting.
so important is because every company is now going through this whole sovereign AI for the enterprise,
Mm.
right? So companies are saying, you know what, I need to build my own AI, right? So I'm stuck in the build versus buy decision, and I'm kind of preferring build at this point, but I'll see how it goes. So typically, what we do for such enterprises, give them our platform.
Mm.
The platform can be on the cloud, it can be on their private cloud, and we also have this new offering called, agent in a box,
Mm.
right? So this is like your AI. It can be a totally air gap solution which can sit on your data servers, right?
I see. So, what kind of skill do I need to have, I being an enterprise? So, let's take two extremes. One extreme is I don't have any skilled people to use your platform, in which case, I suppose I can buy one of your agents out of the box. Is that correct? And at the
Yes.
other extreme, perhaps a larger enterprise. I have the resources, and I have potentially the manpower to use your platform. So, what kind of skills will be required at the enterprise end?
So today, I think going forward, at least for the next 2 years, right? One skill that if you are an expert on, right, any AI company will pay top dollar for you is your prompting skill, right? Now, prompting is a buzzword that essentially means you can tell someone what to do, right? In this case, you tell your agent in the right manner and as much detail as possible what task it's supposed to do, what's its persona, what the way it's supposed to behave, and typically, like you would train the newbie coming to your company, give them the best way to, they say, to train or to teach a person is to do storytelling. So here you would give examples in your prompting, right?
To
Uh,
your platform, on your platform. Is that
on
correct?
the platform. So you'd give all, so the essentially the only role that we want a person to play is prompting. Everything
What
else is
about connecting? What about connecting to? I mean, these are large enterprises. They have complex systems behind databases. What about that?
so we provide all that out of the box. So essentially, what we are saying is we provide connectivity to, for example, if you're doing a CX solution, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
we provide direct connectivity to your Genesis, Avaya, Cisco at the
mm,
touch of a button.
mm,
Typically, a lot of services companies take 6 months to do the integration.
mm,
So we provide it at the touch of a button, right? It could be in the US, companies use us for iMessage automation. So we provide the
mm,
integration to iMessage.
mm,
Any sort of chat, web chat, it could be. It could also be a connection to the CRMs like the Salesforce of the world, ticketing tools like ServiceNow,
mm.
right? So the entire connectivity is provided by us. Now you may come back and say, hey, you know what, an enterprise, everybody has custom CRMs, right?
Correct.
So what we are saying is, as long as you are on rest,
Mm,
right?
mm,
All that you need to give us is authentication and the URL, and we have a GUI that you can go and configure your own CRM as well. So essentially, what we are saying is any form of complexity, we take it out of you. The two important factors that I didn't cover,
mm,
right? One of it is choosing your LLM,
mm,
right, or your SLM.
mm,
Now, there are, and this comes to the second piece, right? You said that there are people who know something about AI, but just want this to speed up my work and so on. So every tech guy in the world today has a theory, right? And he says that, you know what, say Claude is great for coding,
mm,
Anthropic may be great for something, OpenAI is great for summary. So
mm.
you're free to attach any agent to any LLM. Or if you're one of those progressive organizations, say, you know what, I'm not going to use any of these LLMs. I have my own SLM, right?
Mm,
And I will only use my SLM, right?
mm,
So you can connect your own SLM to this as well. So essentially, what it means is that you are freed from the complexities. You choose if you want to your SLM or LLM, or as a default, we also have our own SLMs for many industries. We
mm.
have, for example, if you do voice agents, we have our own speech to text systems. We would have our own I would say SLMs for that industry. We might have our own TTS as well. But that
Mm,
doesn't stop you from choosing something else because
mm.
with a lot of debate, we decided to have a really open platform that you are free
Interesting.
to use what you want. Because the way we look at it is the future is all about AI agents.
Mm,
And over time, we have realized that what really matters is, what you add to the value of organizations and help them get their positive ROI. So we are
okay.
providing a platform that would help. Could be third parties, could be developers, could be, I would say, our own maybe employees who use this to develop agents.
Yeah, but do you? I mean, one criticism, or not criticism, one thing which I hear from many people is that some of these agentic systems have problems because they're kind of sitting on top of existing broken processes. So if you try and automate a broken process, I mean, you're going to end up, in some kind of a failure. So do you actually come in and kind of clean up some of these systems as well? Because
Yeah.
if the process is broken, then there's not too much you can do.
Yeah, so that's where the whole RAG framework comes in, right? So what we are essentially saying is you have your knowledge base somewhere in the organization. This could be fragmented, this could be spread through the organization, so on and so forth, right? So what we provide in the tool, which I didn't mention again, thanks for pointing it out, is a RAG framework. So
Mm,
essentially, all that you need to do is to point, where your data lies, right? This could be, a CRM, or it could just be a couple of web pages, or maybe a image file, so that doesn't matter where, you can point to all your data sources or a URL, right? And it would very quickly come up with the model, right?
mm,
And based on this, what would really happen is that you can then create an agent that will access this model. So understood that data is always an issue. I think it's also a very big problem with large US enterprises,
mm,
right? Where data tends to be duplicated and in various systems, and those are the ones who have this weird custom CRMs as well.
mm,
Typically, in I would say developing countries, since they caught on to the later wave of computerization, they probably have some of the later CRMs and ticketing tools. But we find a lot of like legacy stuff in the older systems, right? But
But
as
what?
long as you have a RAG system that you go ahead and develop a knowledge base, then you just need to define an agent that can develop it. So we have what we typically call the 5 minute challenge,
Mm,
right? So what we typically say is, irrespective of where your data lies in an organization, you use our platform, and within 5 minutes, you can get the first version of your AI agent, right? When you just go in with the default settings. Now, I
mm,
didn't get into the detail. Like, for example, I said that you can choose your LLM. But what
mm,
I didn't say is you can also define your LLM settings.
mm,
For example, there are settings like temperature.
mm,
Temperature essentially means, how volatile do you want the conversation to be? How
mm,
closer you want it to stick to your prompting or your script, and how creative, if I can use a better word, it should
mm,
be.
mm,
Then there are various other settings, like for example, if it's a voice AI agent, you could define, how is silence detected, right?
mm,
Like for example, you wait for a second before you say the conversation has ended, or you just wait for, half a second, you wait for 300 milliseconds. So we provide a lot of the LLM and also, I would say, the engineering details, right, in the platform so that you don't have to code anything. It's
mm,
all on a no code platform.
mm,
And so essentially what we are providing you in simpler words, if I can use the technical word, we are
mm,
providing you an orchestrator, right?
mm.
And an
And you
orchestrator
need to have
that you
reasonable
the
skills to do this. You need to have reasonable skills to do it. I mean, somebody in the enterprise.
No, not really. I mean, I'll give you an example. We had this contact center, manager,
Mm,
right? He works for a contact center,
mm,
and he wanted to do a particular bot in ODM, right?
mm,
This is for an Indian customer. He has never coded in his life, right? He went and used this platform, and within 2 hours, he had his stuff ready, and the
mm,
bot went live the next day, right? The reason is that he knows his customer better than anybody else.
mm,
So the kind of prompting that he used was really, really impressive
mm,
because he specified the persona, he specified, what are the guardrails, and that's very important, right? Nobody talks about prompting. I think it's
mm.
like an underestimated skill, and this is like I think I would really encourage people to go and take up this profession. This is really the new SEO, or the holy grail now, right?
Yeah.
And so what we have also learned in the process of building some of these systems, every day we learn new things. Is that, for example, when you do prompting, your guardrail should be about 70% of your prompts. This is like shocking, right? This is like saying
Mm,
that, typically in the past when we used to write these programs, it's like saying security should be like 70% of your code, which is never there, right? You always focus
Yeah.
on applications. But LLMs,
So when you
given
say
the
guardrail, sorry to interrupt, just tell us a little bit of what you mean by guardrail.
so guardrails, look at it as security in a AI agent, right? So essentially, you put in the right, I would say, the right phrases or the right commands to your, agent in your prompting by saying that, don't do these things, right? And that's very important, right? Because you want to be sure that, I'll give you an example, right? Let's suppose we are doing, there's a company that handles all kinds of, there's a bank that handles lending, deposits, various other things, right? Let's suppose we were working only with the lending department, right? Now, we could actually have a guardrail that says, you know what, don't answer questions pertaining to getting new loans,
Mm.
right? And that could be pretty powerful, right? Because otherwise, you fed it all the data, right? It would try to answer as a customer says, you know what, why don't you give me a loan, right?
Mm.
And but you say that, you know what, I don't want you to answer those questions,
Mm.
right? And these tend to be quite important because, for example, you may not have you may not be authorized to even offer those loans online, for example, right? So there could be regulatory impacts, there could be all kinds of issues, including you give access to some data that you shouldn't have given access to.
Mm.
So I think your guardrails are very important in any AI agent, where you are careful of what information that you give to the customer.
Got it. So Ganesh, let's take a specific example. I know you talked about CX agents. So let's take customer service in this case and deep dive a little bit. So, okay, actually, before that, let me ask a question on the Indian context. Because India has so many languages, does it give us an advantage in terms of building foundational models, or is it a disadvantage?
So I think the answer to that is there is something unique in uh, India in the sense that we are firstly fundamentally multilingual, right? And I think that is one very important aspect uh, that we look here, right? Uh, Essentially, when we have conversations as Indians, we typically have conversations in 2 to 3 languages, right?
True.
So, and that is something that typically what we call as code mixing, or typically you don't find that in conversations in many countries. Now, if you take the US, probably if you take like we are doing some systems for a company in Miami, so
Mm.
they have similar problems, right?
Mm.
Because
Mm.
there's people keep interchanging
Switching.
Spanish and English,
Mm.
right? But in India, it's so natural that we don't even sometimes realize what we are doing,
Mm.
right? And so, how do you define systems for that? So, we actually offer, among all the, I would say, agentic AI platforms, I can, at least today, I can say it for a fact that we are the only ones who offer, I would say, multilingual conversations out of the box, especially
Interesting.
for voice conversation, which is where the complexity is, right?
Yes.
Especially when you do voice on telephony, that's where the real complexity comes in usually. And we offer that out of the box for customers to actually start using and be multilingual from day one, right? And it's very, very powerful. What is it? Fundamentally, an orchestrator we've written, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you have
And
done this. You have actually built the models for all Indian languages plus languages like Spanish.
yes, we have. Now, you have to also realize that how do we, why it is so important, right? Typically, like, let's suppose, I'm assuming a lot of Indian audience here. So let's
Yeah.
suppose you are someone, say in Agra,
Mm.
right? Now, this is actually less relevant because somebody in Agra is most likely to use just Hindi,
Yeah.
right? Let's suppose, in fact, you have somebody from Bangalore,
Mm.
right, which is where I stay today. Uh, it's more likely that people can speak 3 or 4 languages. Similar stuff is with Mumbai, right? Uh, So, and let's suppose you're from Chennai, you probably speak English and Tamil, right? Now, the important fact is that you need to be able, as a machine, to have a conversation, right, with a human being who speaks these two languages. Now, the question arises as to what the machine should do. Should the machine also talk in two languages, or should it talk in only one language? So, firstly, at the functional sense, right, we provide what's called as implicit language switch, right, as part of the platform itself. So essentially, you can start speaking in English, you switch to Tamil, the machine might switch to Tamil. Now, the tricky thing now, so technologically everything is covered, right? So we offer all this. Now, the fact is how often you want, say, the machine to switch and on what triggers, right, is for you to set in your prompting, right? But out of the box, it offers implicit language switch. And this is a very unique thing that, we offer from a very Indian perspective. And this, I'm just talking about, I would say, our, Inya platform. Having said that, there's another aspect to it. So when we were doing all this stuff, right, we've done a lot on the voice AI agents, right? I think at peak we also handled the load of close to 30,000 concurrent AI agents. I think very clearly nobody in the world would have ever handled this volume, right?
This is
Uh,
across customers or a single customer?
this is across customers, right? This is on a peak day, right? When we had few large customers. But on an average day, we do about 15 to 20,000 concurrents often, right? Now, so how do you handle scale? So where what India offers is like for enterprise, we are ready for your scale, right? Because we have done it in the past, right? We're ready to handle multilingual, right? And we have all the integrations available. And if you really want, we have this product in the box that you can actually launch it as an air gap, right? So this is what we offer. But there's something else close to my heart which I need to talk, right? So when you have a conversation with a machine, what we also found as a difference to having a conversation with two human beings, as we are doing today, is that you will respond not only to what I speak, but also the way we speak it, right? To give an example, there's a joke that one of my friends used to tell me in the US is that, hey, Ganesh, whenever you say yes, right, I'm not sure whether you mean a yes or a maybe, right? So that's Indians, we have that reverse head shake, right? That again tends to confuse people. But even in our words and accents, right? Sometimes when we say an yes, it sometimes means a no or a maybe, right? And that's true for people all over the world. It's not like, culturally particular to Indians, right? So what we are also doing now is trying to build out what we call a voice to voice LLM, right? So what we are doing here is, so in the last NVIDIA GTC in San Jose, we actually presented this paper. Uh, Huge crowds. We didn't expect that. People are trying to get to the room, and we have presented our architecture actually openly and talked about what we are doing here. Essentially, what we are doing is three things, right? Firstly, trying to bring the emotional intelligence to the conversations. The second thing is we are trying to crunch the architecture. The reason is simple. Today, the architecture, the way it works is you convert your speech to text, right? Do some sort of LLM on the text, have some TTS answer, right? So what we're trying to say here is this, there are three layers, right? So the three layers, so adds to three latencies, right? So we are crunching the architecture to just have lesser layers. Like the speech to text and the LLM, we are trying to make it one layer, right? The third thing that this has
Which
to a
means,
lot.
just to clarify, Ganesh, which means that input is voice, output is voice without an intermediate state. Is that what you're saying?
Not really. It's essentially saying that it's like there's one layer where we encode I would say the emotions, the pitch, the tone, and all that stuff that goes into our voices, right? We also look at the text, right? And we also create a representation out of all this, right? And So essentially what happens is because there are fewer layers, what we are hoping and seeing is, the latency is less, right? So latency is the biggest pain point of any real-time system, right?
Mm.
Now we may be happy with 1.5 seconds or a second, but we always want to get that 100 milliseconds more, right?
Yeah.
The second thing is errors. More layers you have potentially can lead to more potential hallucinations. So
Mm.
as less layers as possible uh, leads to better latency and less errors. And obviously, what we are really looking forward to is emotional intelligence in conversations. So
Yeah,
this
got it.
is our goal. I mean, that's something that we are chasing. But having said that, what we are offering to customers is our open agentic AI platform that's called India.
Got it. So what kind of latency do you work with today?
So I
In
think
voice, I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest latency is something today that you find it difficult to avoid. And that latency is to do with when do you detect that, when does the machine detect that the human has stopped talking,
Mm.
right? So what you used to be called, today it's called end of thought,
Mm.
right? So it is not just when you stop speaking, but also to detect when it's not just the silence, right, in a conversation.
Mm.
Sometimes some of us have long pauses in conversations, but
Correct.
to detect when the person has actually stopped speaking,
Mm.
right? Now that piece you can't in any
Avoid.
conversation you can't avoid, and that's a setting that we offer between 200 milliseconds to 1.5 seconds, and that's nothing to do with the machine, but it's just that.
And
Where
after
the
that, mm.
Sorry.
And after that, how much latency does the
So
system take
essentially,
to?
the real latency, it could be typically this is like we set it at half a second, right?
Mm. Mm.
But apart from that, if you add the ASR, the SLM is what we typically use. The TTS, we try to do it within 300 milliseconds, right?
Mm.
So the real effort happens in 300 milliseconds. But when you go and actually look at it, you might say, hey, you know what, it's almost a second, or sometimes it's like second and say 200 milliseconds, but that's because of your settings. Because
Mm.
how much you want it to pause
Mm.
before you detect that the human has stopped talking.
Got it.
But having said that, as engineers, we always want to crunch it more and more. And there are differences, right? Again, it might depend because there are some things we don't have control on, like the LLMs, right? Let's suppose you go and choose and this is what I'm talking about in an SLM typical configuration, our own SLM. But if you choose, like, I want to use only OpenAI, I don't like anything else,
Mm.
then you're dependent on the latency that you have with OpenAI's response. Added to all this, there could be like between 50 millisecond to 200 milliseconds of the network delays, which
Mm.
again, it's nothing to do with the AI. It's the
Yeah.
telephony conversations have sometimes that delay. So I would say at best less than a second. But our effort, or from our angle, it is from our engineering, it's about 300 milliseconds. But few of these things add on another 500 milliseconds to a second.
Got it. And if you take customer service, for instance, as agents, how deep do you go? In other words, can you have long conversations solving whatever customer service issues completely with agentic AI, or do you have to hand it off to a human agent at some point?
So actually, they're just getting better and better, right? I think today I've seen conversations of 4 to 5 minutes, even 6 to 7 minutes, where customers have with AI agents, and leading to very good outcomes, right? Uh, the question, of course, is that organizations have to decide which problems they want to solve first,
Mm.
right? And typical of organizations, they would start by solving some of the easier problems, which are, costing them typically, revenue or cost, right?
Mm.
And that's what they would attack, not necessarily what is difficult from an engineering perspective, right?
Mm. Mm.
But having said that, to answer to your question, I think LLMs have reached that stage, or if you use an agentic platform like ours, uh, where they can handle really, really complex conversation. I'll give you one example. We are working with a US customer. What we work, this is like an accounts receivable use case,
Mm.
right? And let's suppose the customer has an EMI of say $1,000. We have this AI agent that actually reasons, right, and talks to the customer and comes to a settlement, right, saying that you know what, it could be anything between say $500 to $1,000 and appropriately increases the, I would say, the term. So I
Yes.
think uh, so I think very complex conversations are possible and are happening all across. Uh, it is just that organizations are amazed, right, and trying to use this to solve the problems, and it is very difficult for them very often, right, because
Mm,
they already, for example, if it's CX,
mm,
I already signed this contract, with a contact center to provide me service for 4 years,
yeah.
right? Now, how am I going to take that out and say I'm going to use AI? And organizations, it's all about justifying your past actions as well, right?
Yeah.
So that's what's really holding things back, right? Can AI solve everything today? Probably it can, but can AI be used for everything? Not really. Like for example, I did mention that you need to have guardrails, right?
Mm,
So
mm,
let's suppose you have sensitive conversations, right? Let's suppose you have conversations in healthcare, you have conversations with government services, your conversation where what you say could be very could be misinterpreted, and something wrong could, like for example, a lot more probably in the US, lead to more lawsuits.
yeah.
You would be a little careful on how you use those AI models.
Sure.
And typically
So
in those cases, you'd be careful. And that's the reason actually we came up with this open model. Because for many customers, they actually insist that you use an open source model,
mm,
right?
mm,
So you
mm,
could just use Llama, right,
mm,
and build out a small SLM on their data, right, and have it sitting on their cloud, right? And this
got
could
it.
still solve their problem.
Got it. Now, folks, I just want to let you know that it's already 7:37. I'm going to ask Ganesh just one or two more questions and open up for your questions. So please start thinking about your questions and placing them in the Q&A box. So Ganesh, just continuing the customer service agent thing, what kind of metrics do you sign up to? I mean, is it more around service level, AHT, or more complex things like first call resolution and so on? So what do you normally sign up to?
So that's a great question, right? Because we keep debating on it every day as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think depends on the use case, I would say. Let's suppose it's an AI agent assist, like we are doing with some very large corporations in the US as well, right? So this is just a co-pilot for the existing agents. In this case, we largely sign up for, I would say call handling time reduction,
Mm,
right? So we sign up for like 15 to 20% call handling time. We've kind of seen it happening very easily,
mm,
right? Especially for real time systems, right? Uh, when it comes to like agentic automation, my firm belief, and we may also not do in all the cases because the customer is not ready, is that we need to sign up for outcomes, end
mm,
customer outcomes,
mm,
right? When we deal with large enterprises, I always try to insist to the customer, what's your outcome, right? And what are you measured against? And can I sign up to that? And the reason is simple. I am an optimist on AI, right? And I typically think that at least for the use cases that I have seen in the past, right? And that's where I'll pitch this outcome models, right? I'm fairly confident that the AI can do it much better than what is done today, right? And that's when I would pitch these outcome models. So the customer has zero risk,
mm,
right? And can take up, for example, with debt collection, I take up, I go and sign up saying that, I'll collect X dollars for you, right? At
mm,
this cost of color. So I don't need to talk AI. So the
mm.
problem is when you talk AI, then customers typically get overwhelmed and say, you know what, and now I'm going to
Yeah.
take this AI decision. You're going to ask me which model to choose,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I don't want to even get there. So I don't talk those phrases. I only talk to them about how we'll add value to you, and incidentally we use AI, right?
Mm.
So I
So
think
it's
that works
outcomes.
best.
So your conversations are around outcomes.
Yes, and I think in this in the current state, that's a good way to sell the product, at least for us, because we are able to convince the customer that we are, throwing our weight behind you, right? We are here to support you, right? And we are tying our outcomes to yours. It's not that we are looking to make some money out of, as one of my customers said, it's not some, technological experiment you're doing on us. I said, no, it's not. I'll tie up, I tie this to, your outcomes, and, I could sign that customer within 2 hours. So.
Got it. So one final question before I still nobody's asked any questions from the audience, but let me ask you this: you're one of the companies which got impaneled under India AI mission. By the way, we had Mr. Abhishek Singh on this podcast a couple of
Oh,
months
really?
ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So he talked about all the 7 pillars of India AI mission and all that. So I know you're part of that. So what is your commitment to the India AI mission?
So I think where we are, without getting into the details, I told you about this voice-to-voice LLMs, and this
Hmm.
is what we want to do. Our intention is that we want to do something unique, right? Which will be a scientific breakthrough. It's not that many companies have done. There are a few companies such as Gemini talked about it recently. There are a few companies who are trying to do this. What we will do is try to solve this specific problem. We are not looking to do something very generic, right? So, and use this to really establish IP that can be, used by industry, right? And so that's fundamentally it. I mean, without getting into the more details of, you know, but essentially the government has promised to support us with, compute, right?
Yes,
Which is
subsidized
like the
compute, I
biggest
think.
pain point, right?
Yeah, right.
And I mean, even if you had infinite money today, it's tough to get hold of GPUs.
Yeah,
So, so it helps in both ways. It helps on the monetary side. It also helps from the, more importantly, from the availability side, right?
yeah. And
So we are banking on the government to support us on this, and
mm,
so that's what our pitch is. That we always very clear that we want to do something very unique. And
mm,
even before the India AI mission was announced, we had announced this architecture at the NVIDIA GTC in San Jose.
mm,
And when this came up, we thought that's a great opportunity for us to, get into this. It's also very relevant from an Indian context, very simply because a lot of problems in India, right,
mm,
especially in government,
mm.
are related to how you can solve the typical problems of education and healthcare,
Yeah,
right? One of the things is you have a lot of educational content, for example, on videos, for example, for say in English, right?
mm, mm,
There's this Khan videos and so on and
mm.
so forth. And what if we could, easily adapt those to any Indian language, right? With the right emotions, right?
Right.
So content we feel is the biggest pain point. You could develop the best distribution systems in the world for, to make education possible. And I know the government is working on a few of those. But without content, you can't solve that, right?
Got it.
Similarly, I can give you an example of what we learned, and that's the other reason why we signed up is we did a project for mothers' maternal health. You know that this whole thing about infant mortality rate is an embarrassment to all of us as
Yeah.
Indians, right? So we actually did a project for Uttar Pradesh, one of the small districts, where we tried to improve the mother's maternity rate. I mean, all credit to the NGO whose whole theory was, you know what, it's all about information, and there's a gap in information. This is what is a key factor is leading to, you know, uh, deaths among infant children and mother's health and so on. So basically, we built out this voice AI agent where moms can ask questions about nutrition and various other things, and the agent would answer. It will also get the mom will also get prompted on the phone for things like vaccination and what nutrition at what which phase of pregnancy and so
And
on.
this is voice based?
This was voice based, and that's where we all learned when we did that pilot that
Mm.
I learned that emotion is very important, and that was an eye opener for me because So typically, never really realize, and we as engineers always look into solving problems in the best engineering way possible,
Mm.
right? But then I realized that, how important this whole emotion stuff is, right?
Absolutely.
How do you respond to people with the right emotions,
Mm.
right? Where we humans take it for granted. If somebody
Mm.
cries to you, you will be sympathetic, you'll be careful in how you respond. The words you use will be very different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the
Today's
tone as well. Tone as well.
the pitch, the tone,
Yeah.
all the aspects, but you can't do it if you don't capture it. So today's lot of systems, right? Everything is, you first convert your speech to text and then you work on that.
Mm.
So, yeah, in the text, if you can figure out if he's angry, then you can adapt your tone.
Mm.
But often it's not about what you speak, like I said, right? How
Mm.
you speak is
Mm.
equally important. So that was an eye opener for me. That's
Mm.
one of the reasons why we have embarked on this experiment, and hopefully we succeed in this, because we
Cool.
think,
All the best. Yeah. All
yeah,
the
we think
best.
this is extraordinarily important to solve the real problems.
Yeah. We have a couple of questions, Ganesh, which have come up. So this is from Rishi. Does India use Bhashini? If not, how does India performance accuracy compare with Bhashini?
So Bhashini is a speech to text system that's developed by certain folks. It's built on, I think, 1,000 hours of audio or so. We
Mm.
have our own ASR. You know, I
Mm.
I leave it to people to use our speech to text system, Google speech to text system, or any other speech to text system they find in the market. If you're looking for a speech to text system, to decide which is the best.
Mm.
But what we offer is our own speech to text system as well, which we
Mm.
were the pioneers in speech to text, right? We started it in 2016-17. We think we have the largest annotated audio database in the world, right? For many
Mm.
languages, including Hindi, we probably have few million hours of audio, right? And
And you have text to speech as well,
yeah, we
along with
do.
it?
We do. But in India, right, you can choose your, like I say, you can actually choose, like, you can choose our speech to text. There's an option for Gyani speech to text, but you say that I want to use Gemini, you can use Gemini as well, right? So I leave it to you.
Okay.
I leave it to you to use what you want. But we do have an option. We think we are easily, from our benchmarks, the most accurate in the world for Indian languages and a few global languages as well,
So when
right?
you say we can try it out, I mean, we can just go sign up on your website and then start using? Is that
Yeah,
how it
so you
works?
can go to Inya.ai and create your first. I challenge people that it will take them more than 5 minutes to create their first AI agent. So
Oh,
it can be a
interesting.
voice AI
That's
agent
a
that you
challenge,
develop.
guys.
Yeah, and so we've seen it. We usually do it in our seminars where we ask them, to build out an AI agent, and typically people do it within. Sometimes it's 10 minutes, but usually it's within 10 minutes. Yeah.
And do you provide API access also? If I just want to use an API for say text to speech, I mean, is that also
Yeah,
possible on your platform?
That's separate from the Inya product. But
Ah,
we do
okay.
offer our own speech to text, text to speech kind of APIs.
Mm.
In the past, we had not opened it. We said, that's all. That's why this is all an eye opener for me. We have opened our platform today, right? So
Mm.
and we respect the also a person's choice to choose which platform that he wants to, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
no, I'm specifically referring to Indian languages because with the amount of data
yes.
you've used, I'm assuming you should be right on top
Yeah,
of
and
them.
we obviously there are new systems coming every day. That's why we keep consuming GPUs. And so we are I think, in the midst of launching our multilingual ASR, which my team says is, better than anybody else with about 4% or, I mean, 3.5% is what he said from his
Yeah,
benchmarks.
yeah.
But these things will keep happening, and we will keep developing new systems. But today's conversation on, like I said, there are two separate tracks here. One is some of the deep tech stuff we do, but the Inya platform is open, right?
Okay.
So
Can
I
you
leave
spell
it.
it out? I think somebody wants you to spell out the
Yeah, it's
website.
Inya.ai, right? I can actually try to put it on chat if I can do that. And let me just try to
Well,
put
people are not looking at chat. You can just spell it out, Ganesh, and I can
it's
include
I
it in my
as in
notes.
India,
INYA
Inya.ai. Yeah.
dot AI. There you go. Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay. Great. We have another couple of questions here. How does your voice agents compare to 11 labs in terms of latency, intuition in voice, custom tool integration, etc.?
So 11 Labs is fundamentally a TTS provider, right? Right, who offer a few other things, but they don't offer the breadth of services that you'll get from a voice AI agent platform, right? I think if you were to compare us, I think globally you should compare us to something like a VAPI, right? Or a Bland, maybe, right? I think, like, for example, in our platform in India, we also offer, 11 Labs TTS, right? So what I said, it's an open platform, right?
Yeah.
So you can choose your ASR, or you call it a transcriber. You can choose your LLM, and you can choose your TTS, right? And make it work. What we bring to the table is what can work for Indian pricing,
Mm.
and not something that looks good for a pilot but can't be affordable by
Yeah.
any enterprise, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So and that's what we pride ourselves on for Indian engineering, to make it happen in a way that Indian companies can consume, right? At
Excellent.
the right
Excellent.
price point and also at the right quality that is necessary for that use case.
Yeah. And languages wise, you're covering pretty much all the
So
languages
we cover
along with
any
the
language
different.
in the world, right? So essentially, what I'm trying to say is that we may not have an ASR for every language in the world.
No, no, I'm talking about Indian languages.
Yeah, I think we offer. I mean, I don't know exactly now the platform, but if you come to us, we have live implementations in about, I think, 14 languages today, right?
Mm.
Most of it, when you come to us as an enterprise, we probably do it in our own. And you give us the choice, we would use completely our own ASRs, our own SLMs, right?
Sure.
Uh, but the TTS often is a choice of the individual, because he likes a particular voice. Hey, go with it. And we also offer a voice cloning option. You want to clone
Okay.
somebody's voice, you can go ahead, but we've seen that those tend to lead to longer conversations. So what I typically tell customers, hey, you have this plethora of voices available on India, you choose, and we'll charge you based on what you choose, right?
Okay, cool. Okay, we got another 8 minutes to go, so two more questions are here from Mr. Krishnan. Interesting about capturing emotion. However, it is infinitely variable depending on multicultural background. Good point. How do you account for the infinitely variable expression of emotions in speech?
So that's why you have AI models, right? So is it an easy problem to solve? It's not, right? I mean, I'll give you an example, right? This is a good way to look at that answer. So for years, there have been international companies, I won't name them, who said that for post facto speech analytics, right? They look at the pitch, the tone, right? And all these things in Indian languages, right? And give you a report, and tell you know, the agent did a good job, and but they never did any research on this, right? And I mean, I know Tamil, Malayalam, and these languages. Typically, they tend to have a higher pitch, right? And as a naturally speaking, person in Chennai, if you use the systems that were developed for the American demographics, they're not going to work. And that's what a lot of folks have been, international companies have been peddling in the market, if I can put it that way. But those don't work, right? So the question is a very valid one. It's not an easy problem to solve. The only way it can be done is that, like today, the way you solve AI problems, right? And I'm sure that in a couple of years it'll be different. So today's thinking about solving most AI problems is to put a lot of data, right, behind solving any particular problem, right? You dump that data to solve the problem, supervised, unsupervised, and typically you try to find your end goals, right? Which are often met by the AI system. Largely, we all sit on shoulders of others. Today, the shoulders that most people, including all the LLM providers, are sitting on is the amazing transformer models, right? And full credit to a lot of folks who figured out finally is that all that it needs is more data
Yeah.
sometimes and more
Yeah.
computing power to solve, right, some of these things. So in answer to that question, part of the job will be to collect a lot of data,
Mm.
right? There could be some data on the internet, there could be some data on social media. There's some data that we have. Then
Mm.
the government says it has some data as well.
Mm.
So try to use some of this data to train the models and reach the end goals. So is it
This
an
will be
easy
voice and
problem?
emotion data. It's hard to get.
Well, I think if I can, add a little bit of humor, you just need to see any TV serial, and you'll find more emotions in 20 minutes in a Indian TV serial than you
It's a
could
good
find
one.
say in years of newscasters reporting, right? So I think I mean, jokes aside, your point is valid. It's difficult to get emotion laden data. And obviously, in all, when developing such AI systems, the biggest challenge is that, right? How do you
Mm.
get the right data, how voluminous data? How do you do reinforcement
Yeah.
learning for such data?
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. I am not saying that we have solved
Mm.
this problem.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's what
Cool.
I'm looking to solve, if I can put it that way.
Cool. Cool. Okay, we'll take just two more questions because we are close to running out of time. So this is from Ranjit. Are there any legal frameworks that agentic AI has to comply with? For example, assume that a customer raises a complaint that the chatbot guided him to perform an incorrect procedure, or a voice bot for that matter, that affected his business. What are the guardrails for such use cases?
So I think that's a very valid point that I said, right? And that's why I said you need to have very strong guardrails that are going to defend. That's why many companies are also, which are dealing with mission critical applications,
Mm.
are not looking at agentic AI to replace human beings, right?
Mm.
They're using them as assists. Like, for example, there's a very large enterprise engagement we have. As the customer calls the contact center, right? The transcript of what the customer is saying comes on the screen. If the customer talks some, about, needing some help, the documents pertaining to that automatically pop up on the agent screen. And often a verbatim text is presented to him, what we
Mm.
call as an agentic AI, real-time agent assist solution, right?
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And this is good for, often for cases where companies say, first, I want to have my agents use the system, right? And later I will see whether I want to automate it. So if you have things that could lead to lawsuits and stuff like that, some of the customers are quite careful and they will always use it with human agents first.
Mm.
See how we can improve our human agents. This could be any task, right? I took an example of contact center because
Yeah.
that was the question, but it could be anything like it could be an underwriting system, for example,
Sure.
right? You would not replace the person who underwrites loans with an AI agent overnight, right?
Mm.
God forbid, right?
Mm.
So you would always use that to firstly take care of all the mundane tasks, right? And slowly it will start taking up the more complex tasks, but you will always try to have a human supervisor behind.
And I
But
suppose you
sometime in the
typically use
future,
this.
yeah. Sometime
Sorry
in
to
the future, you will have a AI agent as a supervisor, right? And that's what
correct.
we have in
Correct.
our multi-agent framework. Well,
Yeah.
you will have AI agents who also acts like a supervisor
Mm.
for some of these other AI agents. But that's another story.
And also, I was going to say that the agent conversations are also going back into retraining the agent system. So that also helps. So over time, it gets better.
Of course, that's important as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One. Okay, this is the last question. Okay. Sir, what do you suggest for students who want to get into jobs of AI? What skills are required actually? I know one skill you talked about was prompt engineering. What else is she's
So
asking?
I think you have to always start with Andrew Ng's courses. This is what I would suggest. Before you get into agentic AI and all those complex things, start with learning what is machine learning, right? I think that's very important. Then do some courses on, say, generative AI, then start getting into agentic AI, right? Uh, I think for the smart kids of today, right, which are like infinitely smarter than people like me, I would really advise them to take up AI as a profession and but start learning on the basics, right? Don't do it for a job, right? Because once you have those basics, you understand machine learning, then you know why LLMs worked, right? And why AI didn't work for, from the 1950s, people are trying AI. Why it didn't work for so many years, why the transformer model was a game changer. So once you start reading that, for inspiration, I always say that go and listen to the, I would say, podcasts of the Perplexity CEO or any of these new kids. One of the companies that competes with us as an 18-year-old CEO. So I think listen to some of this stuff, and you'll learn more about AI. You really don't need a teacher anymore, right? Uh, get your hands dirty with cursor.
Yeah,
Uh, you realize that you don't. It's so easy to do coding, and
yeah.
coding isn't a problem anymore. It's like you need to have the fundamentals.
Fundamentals, right. And in fact, most of the courses, Andrew NG courses, are available on Coursera. So it's easily accessible also. We've pretty much run out of time. I know there are a couple of other questions over there. I'm sorry, I can't take all of them because we're 8:01 and we pride ourselves in being very professional in terms of start and end times. So, Ganesh, I can't, I don't know how to thank you. This has been an awesome conversation. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being patient in answering all these questions. And all the best. All the best with your, with your business as well.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, our pleasure. And everyone, recording of this conversation will be available by tomorrow evening. It will be put out in AI Pod community as well as on YouTube as well as on LinkedIn. Okay, thank you, everyone. By the way, I should mention this, might as well do a plug over here. For those of you really interested in AI, you should be a part of the AI Pod community. It's a WhatsApp group where lots of conversations happen around it. Questions get asked, questions get answered. So you should join the community. All you need to do is to go to AIPOD.in, and there is a QR code over there, and with that you can join the community. Thank you for the opportunity to get that plug in as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, and good night, everyone.